All right, we will bring it to the floor now for question and answer. A reminder that each candidate will have 90 seconds to respond to each question. We'll give both an opportunity to answer. We will have people floating around with microphones, so feel free to step up. This is an open forum. It's a reminder that school board positions are nonpartisan as defined by the Secretary of State. So candidates do not file with either party. So let's keep the questions general and directed at both candidates, please.
You guys said you plan on trying to lower taxes, and what's your idea on how you're going to lower taxes when you just do levies?
All right, we're going to let Jim go first, after letting Jeannie go first with the 5 minutes. The question was, how are you going to lower levies or lower taxes with levies in the future?
First of all, thank you for that question. I think the main principle is to try to work with our state legislature. And talking to Dave Fitzsimmons before the meeting tonight, the legislature is well aware that the funding program is very inadequate, out of date, and very hard to understand. He did tell me that there were only 3 people in St. Paul that understand this current system. So the main thrust for myself in that area would be to look at our budget, see if there's anything we can cut, review where our fundings go, and to work with the state legislative representative and senator to see if we can get that, to make sure that funding is more equitable. Thank you.
Thanks for the question. In the past 3 years, or even beyond, but we're really noticing in the last 3 years that the state funding the gap is getting higher because it's a lot easier for the schools in other districts to pass levies because there's not as much impact. So what we've been working a lot with is our our lobbying organization with Brad Lindell, and he is prompted working with our cities as well as Wright County school boards and then our legislators, and to try to get that pinned back so we have a little extra funding coming from the state to equalize that, in which the other schools have better, they have that advantage of the piece. As you know, every time the state, every year it gets worse because they tend to forget about us out here in the outlying areas. So work hard with our legislature. And we really run a lean machine if you look at other school districts. So very proud of our budgeting process right now.
Can I follow up?
Sure.
When we built the new high school, you guys were all planning on the expansion of all the housing that was going on here at that time for taxes. And now we don't have that because the housing's not going on and the economy stinks. So, how do you plan on making up that money?
Jeannie, I'll let you go first.
When we built it with the intent that at some point we have to build another elementary school, but we actually will be full. Our schools are filling up. And I know it feels like with the economy that we're behind, but really it's very hard, it's very difficult to find a house in St. Michael right now to rent or to buy. Our foreclosure houses are filling up. We have a lot of young kids, and when my twins graduated, the year that school opened in 2010, they had 300 kids. Our younger classes have 400, pushing up to the 500 range. So those kids are going to move in, and then we're hoping not to have to build. Which when we put the levy together or the bond, we were thinking having to start thinking about maybe a elementary school in Otsego. That plan is dead, just because we're just moving those kids through, and we might be struggling in the future just with the kids that we already have.
wasn't involved with that process when they started, but I guess going forward, again, I would continue to try to get the city to have more commercial business in our community, thereby decreasing tax burden on the homeowners. And if you look at the property taxes, our actually value of our homes have been going down, but the taxes have been going up. So I have to look at it further. That's all I can say at this time.
Next question. If you want, feel free to state your name and city of residence, if you feel like.
Sure. I'm going to start doing that. It's a good thing to do. Eric Boone from St. Michael. My question is only very quick. Last year we had a special election for this levy. One candidate is an incumbent, the other candidate is not. Did you support holding these elections in off years when voter turnout is very low and people tend not to show up, and it tends to give people with more incentive that would benefit from the taxes to show up and others not? Basically, would you support or did support having off-year elections for levies?
Jim, I'll let you start.
That question, Eric, we do know that when special issues come up, if it's an off-year election, when people are really concerned with the issue, would show up to vote. I'd have to look at when the budget is necessary, when that tax increase is necessary, if we could wait off. If we can't wait, then we'll have to push it. At least have the people vote on it, yes, up or down, and go from there.
Thanks, Eric. I did support that, and I know the value of having it on a regular election, but the interesting part of this last levy was that we needed to do it because every levy is 10 years, similar to a mortgage, and that levy was going to fall off. And if that would have fallen off the tax rolls, then we would have really had to do some major cuts. And we were trying to avoid the cuts that would affect the kids. So that is why we had to do it in that special election period. But I do support doing it during a regular election cycle.